is maybe more leadership in government. It is Joe Biden's reduce those. How's he going to get through this? I feel kind of bad for Biden. I'm not just saying that. This is bad. Cap Prince. I didn't think he was going to start a combination. Oh yeah. So, in addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all of his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos, a little bit of a chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, like I said, those jobs. We make sure we got a situation where we now brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people. $15 for insulin shot is supposed to be $400. Senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all drugs beginning next year. The situation is making it hard. He's lost already. Okay, there's no way this you don't get. Working to bring down the price. This might be the medical.
All right, there we go.
Greatest economy in the world. He's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, the fact of the matter is that
All right.
we find ourselves
Mike
in a
should be
situation
good.
where
Camera's giving me some
his
trouble for whatever
economy,
reason.
he rewarded the
Should
wealthy.
be able to fix
He
that
had the largest
shortly.
tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has.
Give me
in any
one
one
sec.
term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did
There we
something
go.
that was significant. And the military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan.
Right.
He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
What?
President Trump, I want to follow up.
Now
if
you
I
just have a
can.
bunch of
You want to-
mercenaries and
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up.
in
You can do
Ukraine.
whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you
I don't know
ensure
if
that
Mikey
that
Mike's gonna
doesn't
be able to
drive
get on or
prices even
not.
higher?
Not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cause countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing, and they don't know what they were doing. It was the worst, probably the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is
Yeah,
concerned,
my camera
I was getting
fucking
out of
up again
Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with
for whatever
strength,
reason.
with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt, while so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to
hopefully that
21% from 39%.
Be the end of that.
Plus, beyond that, we took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet.
Trying to get
We
a
were going
mic
to have
screen as
something that
well.
nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election,
Damn
trying to
camera
go
keeps
after his
going
political
out.
opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country. And I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration later in this block. President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the
Yeah, I'm
tax
trying to
system. For
see.
example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in
Okay.
America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 million, billion dollars, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because
Sounds good.
all of
Yeah,
these people
jump
are coming
over. I'm
in.
having some
They're
camera
putting
issues,
them
but
on
otherwise I'm good.
Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country
I mean, Social
in the
Security is never
last
gonna.
4 years is
never
not
gonna
to
last.
be
It's
believed.
always
Foreign
been a
countries,
fucking
I'm friends
scam.
with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We
Can't
give them
last.
everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is
I can't believe I can't
absolutely
get
criminal.
added to.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the
Mike's-
Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion
here
to
we
the
go.
states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. Everybody wanted it back, religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart.
Technical
but
issues.
you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby.
Yeah, that Ralph
What
Northam,
happened is we
wasn't it?
brought it back to the states, and the
Psycho.
country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of
Why?
constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. Supported Roe.
Ruth Bader
And
Ginsburg
that
didn't
was
think
that's
that.
this idea that they're all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have your
But Ruth
and
Bader
have him
Ginsburg
decide on
thought that
what your
Roe v. Wade would
circumstances are
inevitably be
when you need
overturned
help.
because it
The
was poor
idea that states
constitutional
are
law.
able to do
Like,
this is a little like saying we're going
that's
to
just a
turn
fact.
civil rights back to the states. Let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women who are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most
Still no
dangerous
viewers.
place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world.
what in the
And he
shit?
opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have. Everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation.
Probably going to switch to
third time is
Rumble for
between
anyone who's seeing this
doctor-
here.
I mean, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Except
period.
for in New York, you can
Roe
abort up
v.
to the
Wade, you
time of
have
birth.
late-term
In
abortion.
Colorado,
you can do whatever
abort
you
up to the
want,
time of
depending on the
birth.
state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes
It's his
credit
right
for
to
taking
do.
it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board.
How are they going to do
at
that?
6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration
Trying
and
to get
border
over to
security.
Rumble now.
President Biden, a record number of migrants have illegally crossed the southern border on your
Sure
watch.
have.
Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing
And
real safety and
Denver.
security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border
All right. As
police there are
soon
now.
as Rumble
We
decides to
significantly
let
increased the
me
number
in,
of asylum officers. Significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed me, endorsed my position. In addition to that, we find ourselves in a situation where
we're having trouble
when he was president, he
submitting.
was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated.
Cages were under
That's not the
Obama.
right way
That's
to
how they
go.
started.
What I've done since I've changed the law,
It's a fact.
what's happened? I've changed it in a way that
It's a
now
fact, Jack.
you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than
Did
when
they
he
have
left
Biden do that
office.
drug test?
And I'm going to
Anyone know?
continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we
Closes his
can
eyes
do
trying to figure out
more
what the hell
border
he's trying to
patrol
say.
and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed 3 under his administration, killed an Al Qaeda person.
All right, I'm going to end this
YouTube.
YouTube
Kill 3
stream. Oh,
American soldiers.
you're here.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here.
Just let it go. Just
I'm
just-
still on
saying that
YouTube. I'm
no
trying to get
terrorist ever
switched
got
over to
the
Rumble.
idea
okay.
in their prisons were-
You're
If I
fine
end
there,
this,
just leave it there.
It's simply not true. There's no.
yeah,
data
it's just I'm
to
having
support
trouble
what he said.
starting the Rumble
Once
stream. I think
again,
it
he's
might be because I'm live on
exaggerating, he's lying.
YouTube right now.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration.
I don't want to stay
And
here
so-
because we don't have
carry out,
views.
quote, the
Right,
largest
you can
domestic
go back, though, 'cause
deportation
you can be on
operation in
YouTube at the
American
same
history,
time.
unquote. Does that mean that you
Right,
will deport
right.
every undocumented immigrant in
I'm
America,
trying.
including
some
those
reason
who
I'm
have
not
jobs, including
getting
those whose spouses are citizens,
the
and
Rumble
including those
stream
who have
to
lived here for
start.
decades?
I
And
don't
if
know
so,
why.
how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed
This
3
is a
people.
fabulous shit show.
The
From
people
the
we
debate
killed
itself
are
to everything that's
al-Baghdadi
going on right now.
Insane.
and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a
End
huge
this.
impact
I'm gonna
on
start a new
everything,
one
not
on
just
Rumble,
border,
see
on
if that
everything.
works.
He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, and
Yeah.
every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days.
Yeah, last time it
One of
just
them
froze
just
up at
spoke to the mother,
submitting for some
and
reason.
He just
Really?
had the funeral for this
Yeah, so
girl.
I'm trying to
12
start
years old.
again.
This is horrible what's taken place. What's
I'm
taken
going to
place
send
in
a
our
true
country.
social message
We're
to
literally
Rumble and say, did the Illuminati take you
uncivilized
down, or are
country
you
now.
fucking up? Which
He
one is
doesn't
it?
want it to be. He just
Wow.
doesn't know. He opened
I'm
the
not gonna say
borders.
it. I'm just gonna
Nobody's
say did
ever
the
seen
Illuminati
anything
take you
like.
down?
And we have to get a
Are
lot of
you
these
live
people
on
out, and we have
Rumble
to
right
get them
now?
out fast
I'm live on Rumble,
because they're
yeah.
going to destroy
Okay,
our
good. You want to
country.
send me the link
Just
to
take a look
yours
at
and I
where
can
they're
join
living.
I
you?
did.
They're
I
living
did.
in luxury
Okay, cool.
hotels
Yeah.
in New York City and other places. Our veterans are
Awesome.
on the street.
So I'm
They're
gonna
dying
drop
because he
this
doesn't
one
care about
and
our
jump over
veterans.
there
He
with
doesn't
you,
care.
and
He
then
doesn't like
hopefully
the
I
military
can
at all. And
get
he doesn't
mine
care
running on
about our
Rumble
veterans.
too.
Nobody been worse.
All right.
I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved. Joyce, that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half
Yeah.
because he's
Okay.
done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved.